All right, we are back at it on the SuccessFlow podcast and have a topic today that has been really ringing through as we have gotten through almost the first quarter of 2025. And it's ever present. And it applies to a lot of the things that we talk about on the podcast, but can be a triggering word. Can set some alarms off for people. But the topic for today, the bamboo banger, is accountability.
No, don't do it to me.
Yep.
It is a triggering word. It's so tough.
And it should
make me do the
right?
things I said I'm going to do.
We're going to reframe that for our listeners today and just hopefully get your wheels turning on who's holding you accountable. And kind of the more important way we'll close it off, which is maybe the last thing you're looking about, but what we're really all trying to get to, which is self-accountability. But take a step back. Again, triggering word. What comes up for you as we kick this pot off?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you've got big goals or if you have any goals at all, you have to have accountability. And most often you're going to find success when you have external accountability. I think self-accountability is extremely important to keep that discipline, which we'll talk about. But there's also, you could run into some burnout there. And if no one else is holding you accountable, then it's easy to just be like, who else is, who's going to know? Who's going to know? Right. So it is a triggering word, and it is you're forced to do the things that you said that you're going to do. And, not a lot of people like to be held accountable. But I think it's important, especially if you put yourself in rooms and inner circles that require accountability. That's how you're going to force this into your life, is surrounding yourself around people who motivate and inspire you, that are growing in the same trajectory that you are. And that accountability just happens naturally. And it's not so scary when you're all kind of moving in similar direction, maybe not working on the same things, but have similar goals and what your definition of success and happiness and all those good things are all about. So it's a great topic. I think we've talked about it a lot on the podcast, but never really dedicated an episode to it. I know you got some stories and different ways to hold yourself accountable, and people that inspire you, and as do I. So let's jump in, man.
Yeah. And one of the quotes I came across while prepping for this, no name associated with it, but it's so good. And we talk about why it's triggering. It's accountability feels like attack when you're not ready to hear it.
Yeah.
And
totally.
It makes total sense. And that's when we get defensive, and probably because we're not holding ourselves accountable, or we have an accountability partner that we didn't know keeping eyes on us. Everybody's watching, and for some people, accountability is associated with shame or guilt or previous failures. That's an internal story, right? And so we want to shift that frame, again, in the subconscious mind of accountability. It's someone looking out for you, someone watching your blind side, and someone looking in those gaps that you can't see, or maybe you don't want to see, which is a little bit of a different problem. But we're trying to empower accountability, which is what I think we talk a lot about. That one of the reasons this is ever present is the group we're a part of, Gento. It's holding ourselves accountable to what we're doing, not only for the group, but for the community, for our families, and each other. And we press on that. It gets a little heated in meetings sometimes when hey, this is what we said we're going to do. Where are we at on it? We're obviously doing it in our businesses, which is a little separate, but this has just been ever present for me this year and last year, especially with the amount of coaches I've had. And another area we'll talk about accountability and why coaches even exist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's take a step back here and why do you need accountability? What's the purpose of it? And again, it comes back to once you've defined the path that you're on or want to be on, and you've defined the outcomes that you want to achieve, the goals that you have with the people closest to you that matter the most, it could be whether you're trying to eliminate something or you're trying to gain something. Either way, what do those look like? And accountability is required to develop the habits in order to remain on the path. And so if you've never gone down that path before, where maybe you're eliminating a bad habit or you're trying new things on purpose to challenge yourself on purpose to find out what you're capable of, without accountability, you're going to deter from that path or make a wrong turn and maybe never get back on, or might delay that it might delay, you might lose your sense of direction and delay that purpose. So accountability is extremely important. And, if you don't like the word, I think that's okay. You don't have to use the word accountability, but it's really just going back to one of your core values. And I think most successful people have a core value of do what you say you're going to do. And that's essentially what accountability is. And so I think you have to start within yourself to make the decision of what it is that you want. That's the crux of everything. Because if you don't know what you want, what are you going to be accountable for? Right? Like if you want to start a business, great. Okay. Now we can work with something. Then we figure out why you want to do those things. If you want to lose weight, if you want to be healthy, great. We can work with those things. But why do you want these things? And so you have to have purpose, but you also have to have really concrete evidence and reasons why you want these things. And then you share that with an external accountability partner. You share that amongst yourself, whether you're talking to yourself in your own head or writing it down in a journal. If you write it down in a journal or write it down somewhere, you're visibly committing something to yourself. And you read that again, you're like, damn, I said I was going to the gym today and I did not want to go to the gym today. But what did I do? I reached out and listened to freaking Eddie Pinero's podcast. And he spoke to me for an hour of how to get out of my rut and just start moving and just take action. And so I listened to this podcast. Your World Within is what it's called. And he had a solo episode for like an hour where he was just telling me to, all of the things that I needed to do to get out of my rut and just start doing what I said I was going to do. And that was a way of me being self-accountable, but also it was an external accountability partner. I don't even have to know the guy or meet the guy or shake the guy's hand. There's so many tools and things out there for us to leverage in order to continue down the path. So again, figure out what it is that you want and then find the resources and the people that can help you along the way that are also not going to just let you slide. Because if they let you slide, they're not truly there for you. They're not, why would we want to have those people in our lives? Honestly, it's very casual type of relationships. We'd rather want to have smaller, close relationships versus a million casual relationships that don't really care too much.
100%. I think you bring up a good segue to coaches. We as humans often idolize athletes and what they're able to accomplish on the field with the human body and training, but there's not one of them that doesn't have a coach. Not one.
Right.
And it's easy to see the glory and all of that go to the athlete, which is the way the coach wants it. But they are helping organize and be that, help them keep them on the path, like that heat-seeking missile, like you said, to what they want, whether it's a championship, a gold medal, all the above. And so, and again, with coaches, that's not just for athletes. This applies to the business world. This applies to whatever you're doing. They are looking at your blind spots. They're the places that aren't in your awareness where you're maybe dropping the ball or you don't even know you're dropping the ball. This is the value of accountability and, sometimes paying someone to do that. You pay for this sometimes, but hopefully as a starting point, you have a friend that's on a similar path to your early point that you can check in with, which is another thing we're going to talk about, integrity sessions. But there are multiple levels to this accountability beyond self-accountability.
Well, yeah, self-accountability, I think you can develop extreme discipline. You can develop self-accountability. Like I'm forcing myself up to go take action on things that I said I was going to do. But as I alluded to earlier, you get to the point where you do get burnt out, or you get to the point where you're like, it's okay if I skip one. And then you start then that builds into, you put all this work for a year and then you kind of skip one and then you skip two and then all of a sudden you lose all your progress. So when you have those coaches, for example, Ben Brown, the nutritionist, right, who we've had on the pod, friend of the pod, we go rucking with once a month. I've been working with him, and for like 2 weeks there, I just kind of not necessarily fell off a cliff. I was doing my own thing, but I wasn't checking in with him. I wasn't like, I was not like it was doing any harm, but I just wasn't checking in. And I spent 2 sessions with him this week and just re-energized the whole purpose of why I wanted to start the program with him again. Like life happens, things happen, but when you have that person that you can say, hey, here's what I'm struggling with. And his whole conversation was self-accountability only gets you so far. Steven, I know you've been working so hard for the last 2 years and building discipline and all the things that you've been doing and the writing and the working out and what you're doing in business and all that stuff. But at some point you do need that external accountability person that you can have these conversations with to kind of give you that nudge, because no one else is, you can only do it, yourself so long. And so it's really eye-opening. And it was, one of the first coaches that I've really had And I know there's a lot of people that do this for business, as you said, and also mindset. I mean, there's mindset coaches out there, not only for for athletes to work on their craft, but to work on the mental game, which is like 80% of how they achieve success anyway.
That's whether that for you is therapy, a formal coaching perspective, having a conversation with someone that's not your spouse, not your buddies over a couple beers, not your girlfriends, someone that is going to go 3 to 4 to 5 layers deeper to get to the source of, again, whether it's something you're trying to do or something to stop doing. Someone that's what they're there for. Almost a third-party consultant, to take it more to the business world, which I want to talk about. But that's what you're paying for.
Well, you mentioned the blind spots, right? Mm-hmm. Like you think you know what you want, and then they start asking questions, and you're like, oh, I guess I didn't see it that way. Or maybe, that is the path I thought I wanted, but there's I wasn't looking at it in the right way. Like it's the second set of eyes. It's just a different perspective that gets your brain going and thinking, okay, what's the actual direction I want to achieve here? And it goes back to the purpose and the path that you're on. And then you can define, how am I going to continue to hold myself accountable, and how can they help you remain accountable?
Absolutely. And just getting a little bit vulnerable because I've actually kind of lost count on my paid coaches. I'm somewhere in the realm of 7 or 8 paid coaches. I mean, multiple week engagements going deep. And one of the first ones that I had no idea was the case, after 2 conversations, was down to shame about my past, the decisions that I had made, and taking that on as an identity. And as soon as we clicked on that, it changed everything. Where I needed to go, what I need to let go of. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. Once you clear that, you start figuring out the process and you start letting go of a lot of things. You can focus on what you truly want and really feel more free, which is what we're all looking for. And this freedom, bringing it back to Jocko, who we bring up on the podcast and will continue to, which really ties into the ownership piece, right? Like discipline equals freedom, but extreme ownership. Amazon has a policy that leaders are accountable for long-term results, not just short-term wins. And so that's big picture too, is because, you can have accountability, check the box on a to-do list. I hit the gym today, but did you run the half marathon that you were looking to do? Yeah. Did you, what's a big picture item that you're mapping toward? And there's just all these levels to this accountability that almost have to be ever present. This isn't a once a quarter type of deal, though you'll have those high level check-ins. From a corporate level, we do those performance reviews, mapping to goals with metrics. But all of the greats, the effective people that are making the world go around, are accountable, and they have systems for accountability.
Well, and what's incredible is if you are a leader in business, whether you're a business owner or team lead or whatever, and you've got people that are watching you, caught, not taught, will help them become accountable. They're seeing what you're doing. You're not even teaching them anything. They're just seeing what you're doing, and they all of a sudden start building some self accountability for them, for themselves. But being leaders, it is your duty, your responsibility to have successful long-term goals and make sure those are hit. But it is also your responsibility to ensure the success of each individual person on your team. And all the moves that you make and all the decisions that you make, you have to think about what's best for the company and what's best for the team, and how can there be a win-win-win across the board in order to achieve that success, in order for others to feel the vision and feel the motivation and want to put in the effort to achieve those goals collectively. I'll give you an example. We had a team, we made some moves on our roster and our team here in the payroll business, and we've kind of carved out some roles and specific tasks and duties and whatnot, and just putting people in really good spots to be successful. And one of the team members reached out to all of us. My business partner and my director of operations was like, hey, I just wanted to give you guys some feedback. The moves that you guys are making in the last few months has really re-energized me in the direction that the business is going. This person's been with us almost 3 years. Wow. The direction of where you guys are going. But what it has also done is it allowed me, as they learn and develop in their current roles, I'm now viewed as a resource, and I can be able to tap into what I'm trying to do in my personal goals, career goals, to be an actual, be a team leader and be the one that develops people and be that person, that go-to person on the team. And I thought that was the coolest thing, because you never know. There's no manual for this stuff. Like there's no, you don't know how to you don't know how to grow a perfect business. You don't know how to scale perfect business. There's a lot of things you can read and listen to, but until you actually put in the action and just try new things, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But when it does, and you hold yourself accountable to growth, and I'm always going to continue pushing forward, and I'm always going to try and build new things and try and put people in spots to be successful. When it works, it's awesome to see the other people to buy into that and really just jump in and want to be a resource and want to be involved.
I couldn't agree more. Driving it even home, the business aspect more. I mean, it is one of our core values at the company that I sell software for. And it echoes through. And we do a good job of reiterating that accountability is not blame. It's about growth. And if it's missing, you could have what you think is a great culture, but it won't be a culture of performance. It's not going to get you where you want to go if your targets are aspirational at all. And so changing the frame of accountability and thinking about how it trickles in every area has just really opened up my eyes, because I didn't realize how ever present it was. And we've talked a lot about relationships on this podcast lately. And there is a subconscious accountability going on between the household, but weekly check-ins and these integrity sessions I wanted to mention, check in and this is the idea of an integrity session. You pick a partner. If it's your partner in the household, great. If it's a close friend that's on a similar path, awesome. Show up. If you really want to dial in, record it so you can plug it in on ChatGPT afterward, the transcript, and just talk through one area where you are showing up and mapping to your values, your goals, and share one where you're not, and get detailed. This person that you're talking to may not know you're going through this. You're going to become closer, whoever it is, even if you're already close. And you can start building a system and a pattern where that person can help coach you for free. So this is what you said last week. We're kind of compiling the notes here. What gives? And it's going to fluctuate and shift in different areas of life. This is something free. You just got to find a friend. And I know y'all got friends out there, listeners. So that's one tip that I think could take you to a whole nother level, but it's going to take some time. It's going to take some commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best example you could give is if you're in a financial hole, or budgeting is not your strong suit, or you want financial independence, whatever you're striving for, anyone can get out of it. Anyone can, you have to develop a plan and stick to it. Mm-hmm. It may take, depending on what your situation is, it may take 3 to 6 months, or it might take 3 to 6 years. Who knows? But if you start developing a plan now, how do I get out of debt, and how do I save for my future? What are the different avenues that I can maybe invest my money or whatever, right? There's, trying to learn those things, whether it's a Roth IRA or an HSA, or, what your employer offers in terms of retirement accounts, but also how are you spending your money, and really dialing that in and tracking. Like, don't change any habits. And then for the next 30 days, just track what you spend your money on, and then commit to it. And if you've got that partner in the household, make sure they hold you accountable. So like Kimberly and I have done this, where we're on like a mission to just really stabilize our finances. We spend a lot of money on the kids, a lot of money on adventures and all this stuff, but there's also a lot of like stupid subscriptions and stupid things that we spend money on. It's like, why are we doing this? Like, it doesn't give us a lot of value or purpose. And so we would rather save that money towards our kids' futures and our futures and whatever. And so we're really dialing that in right now and pulling back on. The biggest thing is going out to eat at restaurants, because freaking $100 minimum without even any cocktails when you got a family of 4.
Yeah.
And so I'll be like, you get hungry and you're like, oh, let's go. So like somewhere, it's usually me who comes up with the idea of like, let's go someone's, and then Kimberly will be like, no, dude, like we got this at home. Like, let's just make dinner. And it's like,
that's accountability.
That's accountability right there. And I'm like, you're right. I'm like, yeah, but, and then she's like, no. Like, we got like, this is what we said we're going to do.
Little Wrangler,
right? And then same thing on the other side. Like, she's got some health goals and all this stuff, and getting back into yoga and doing things like that. And so I'll be like, all right, well, let's go on a walk. Let's go start small or whatever, right? And do different things. Or like, let's go, she, just went on a hike with her mom and her aunt the other day, like whatever. Like, so it's me holding accountability on that side, her holding me accountability on this side. And that's where that partner really does come in. And if it goes back to the casual relationship versus the close relationship. The close relationships are the people that are in your corner, that are always going to have your back, that are always pushing you to be better. And they're not doing it in a way that's strenuous or difficult and challenging to the point where you despise them, but they're doing it in a way because they care so much about you, versus casual relationships where it's just like, sure, go ahead and do it, whatever. I wish you much success. But a lot of times those casual relationships don't want to see you succeed because they're comparing or whatever, right? Who knows what their real motive is. But the close relationships, those are the ones you want to find. And your circle is typically very, very small. I mean, I'm talking max 4 to 5 people that really, really are your close relationship people that really want you to succeed. No questions asked, and vice versa.
You bring up such a good point there that as I've reflected on this, I think a lot of the people holding me accountable don't even know they are. I've just built it in my head that these reminders go off and it's like, no, you're behind on this, or you're not doing exactly what you said. They don't even know. But the formality is I'm not working with a coach at the moment.
Yeah.
But that's the other beauty. You start building this network, you're communicating, sharing what you're up to, and it's accountability of its own. So this stuff it just gives so much back if you start working it in.
Dude, that's like where Gary, my personal trainer, comes in. I've been working out with him for 2 years, every Tuesday, Thursday morning. And like, honestly, I have no idea if he cares if I show up or not. He may not care at all. He might not care, but I think he cares. And so I'm going to show up every single time at 6:15 or 6:45 in the morning, just because I think he might care if I don't show up. I don't want to ruin his morning. So I'm going to show up and do my workout because he's my accountability partner and he doesn't even know it. And it's the greatest thing. Now he's a paid coach, right? He's a personal trainer, but he's not like any other, we don't call and talk outside of those two workouts, but he holds me accountable to those days. And then what that developed is more self-accountability to supplement those days with other workouts on my own. And that's the discipline there. So you're 100% correct. They don't have to be close relationships, but they can be accountability partners in your own head because you don't want to let them down.
100%. You listeners keep us accountable with your comments. I had some good ones flow in over the past few weeks that were funny, and what you want to hear, please keep those coming. It helps us keep accountable. We're trying to keep each other accountable here to keep bringing some valuable stuff, some good guests in the hopper. And I think just a final thought is accountability is the glue that ties commitment to results. It really is. And would love to hear who's holding you accountable, your thoughts. Let us know. Any other closing thoughts, Steven?
No, man, that's it. I think start with figuring out where you want to go, what you want to accomplish, figure out who's in your corner, develop the discipline yourself, but that's still only going to get you so far. Find those accountability partners, people that you can rely on, whether they know it or not, and just continue to push forward. Growth all the way. If you're not growing, you're dying. Keep rolling.
Flow Bros out.